Hello, CTEC 134 students. Um, this video is going to be a continuation of several videos I'm creating for creating queries. Last week, your assignment was to produce 10 different queries from the TAL distributors database. And that exercise was on page 129 of our Guide to SQL textbook. The exercise for this week is for you to continue with those queries that begin on page 130. And those queries are going to be a bit more challenging than last week's queries, but I think they'll be fun. I think that you will actually enjoy solving these particular problems. Again, I'm not using the TAL distributors database for my lecture demo. I'm using the Salmaris group database, and I've tried to match up questions in the Salmaris group database that closely match the query questions that you find in the TAL distributors database. And in some cases, I've actually created some of my own questions. So let's get going. I've already got the SQL Server running on my computer, and I've opened up a new query window and typed in all of the comments that I want to include in these next couple of video lectures. And if you look at these comments here, you'll see we're going to deal with some calculations and some aggregate totals. And that's all we'll do in this particular video. We'll just do calculations and aggregate totals. And then in subsequent videos, we're going to work with grouping. And then we'll look at some queries that require wildcards. And then we'll work with some nested queries. These are called subqueries. And then we may add some more other miscellaneous queries that I think might be useful for you. But for right now, we'll just do these calculations. So here we go. The first question is number 10 from the Salmaris group exercise. Labor is billed at a rate of $35 per hour. List the condo unit, condo number, estimated hours, and estimated labor costs for every service request. So we have to put down in the service request table. I'm going to go on here, service request, expanding it, and columns were already expanded. So I can see my column names, and I can see the data types. And we need to get condo ID and category number. That's condo ID here and category number here. And we want estimated hours. And I named mine EST hours. It's here, and it's a decimal number. And then we want the labor cost. But the labor cost is not a column in this particular table. It's going to be a calculated field. So let's do that. We'll start with select. So I'd like to do that in uppercase letters, since that is an actual SQL command. And we're going to be listing condo ID and category. It's the category number. And estimated hours, EST hours. And we need the labor cost, the estimated labor cost. And that isn't in this particular table, so we have to calculate it. And we calculate it with EST hours asterisk 35. And the asterisk is the multiplication symbol. And in this case, I just typed 35. I could have typed 35.00 if I wanted to. I don't need to because I'm just using whole numbers. If it were $35.50, of course, I would need to add it. But in this case, we just want 35 whole dollars, and so I'm just going to put 35 in. And then we're going to say from TBL service request. Now, before I can run this select statement, I have to be sure to run the use Salmaris RIC. I haven't done that yet, so I'm going to execute that, and that executed fine. Now I'm going to test this particular query, and I'm seeing my output here. I see the value 4 estimated hours, and 140 is my calculated column, and that is 4 times 35. So it looks like these calculations are correct. It would be better if I actually had a name for this. Instead of no column name, I could give it a name by coming up here where I calculated that and say as, and I'll call this estimated labor cost. Estimated labor cost. And I'm going to run it again. Now I have a more meaningful name here, estimated labor cost, again with no spaces. If it were important for you to have that spaces in here, estimated space, labor space cost, you could do that as long as you're willing to put brackets around that alias name, estimated labor cost.
Call from 800 service.
I keep forgetting to turn my landline phone off. I don't even know why I keep the landline. As I said before, it's because all I get on is robocalls, and we use our cell phones for pretty much everything. So I apologize for that. But now we have a better name here, estimated labor costs. Another thing you could do if you want to, if you want to put brackets around the calculation, you could do that, and it might be a little bit more easy to read by putting brackets around it. In this case, since we're just doing multiplication, you don't actually need the brackets. If you were mixing multiplication with addition and subtraction and division, you may need parentheses. I think I said brackets, I meant parentheses. You may need parentheses in order to ensure that you follow the proper rules for math calculations. But we'll run this thing one more time, and that looks good. So that's pretty easy to read, and I have a nice heading for it. What if I wanted to say I only want the records where the estimated labor cost is over $200? So I could make a comment here, labor cost over $200. Oh, I already had it there. Okay. I already had it there. Let's start by selecting this query and duplicating it down here. I select Control C, and then I came down here and I did Control V to paste it in. So you would need a where condition, a where clause, because we only want records where this calculation's over 200. And so it would be I guess, fairly logical to assume I could type in estimated labor cost like this and put in the greater than and then put in 200. That would seem to be a reasonable solution, but if I run it, I get an invalid column name estimated labor cost. So then I might say, oh, well, maybe it's because I have spaces here. So I'll take the spaces out and go back to my estimated labor cost alias name with no spaces and see if that solves my problem. And it won't. If I run this again, I get invalid column name estimated labor cost. It doesn't like this reference estimated labor cost down here. You can't use an alias name from a calculation in a where condition. You have to duplicate the actual calculation. So in other words, I have to duplicate this part of the calculation. So I'll select it with Control C, and I'll come in here and paste in the calculation. So now the calculation is duplicated here. And now watch. Now it works fine. I've only got output records where the total cost is over $200. Aggregate totals. Here's this case where I want to calculate the total condo fees Salmaris receives in a month. So that particular table that has the condo fees is in the condo unit table. So I'm expanding that, and my condo fee is right here. So I'm going to say select, and this is an aggregate total. It's going to be a sum function, S-U-M. That's a function, and in parentheses, I'm going to tell it what I want to sum up, and that happens to be condo fee. From TBL condo unit. This is so simple. I just going to put it on one line, and I'm going to execute this. Oh shoot! Exit. Hit the wrong button. Execute. So I have one output line. It doesn't have a meaningful name, but of course I could say some condo fee as, and then give it a meaningful name. But the total of all my condo fees is $5,975. In the first week of our class, the Database Administration Fundamentals textbook had a question: what are all of the aggregate total functions in SQL Server? And the answer was sum and min for minimum, max for maximum, AVG for average, and count if you just wanted to count the number of records. Let's see what that looks like if we include all of these, okay? So I think I'll start with this piece right here. Control C, Control V, select the sum of condo fee, and I'm going to give it a name as total. And then to make this typing go faster, I'm going to select this part right here and paste it in down here. and here. So I'm going to change the sum to min or max or average. Okay, min, max, and one for average and one for count. And then I want to put in a from statement. I'll change these functions here in a second. From TBL condo unit. So I think for readability, I'll insert all of these with tabs. Make it a little bit nicer to read. And I'm going to change the sum here to say min. I want the lowest one. And of course, I want a more meaningful name here. I'll say lowest. And then I'll change this one to max. And I want to change my name to highest. And then I'm going to do an average. So that's the AVG function. And I'll call that average. And I'm going to do a count function. And I don't know, I'll call that count. And one thing you want to be sure to do or remember to do is take that last comma out. If you did the copy and pasting like I did, the last line here doesn't want a comma. So we'll select that and see how we did. So I have a total value, a lowest value, a highest value, an average value, and a count. So that's, I think, all we need to do for doing calculations and aggregate totals. And we'll shut this video down and we'll continue on with grouping in a subsequent video.